Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining our session today from Jane McClenaghan at Vital Nutrition, which is Eating for Energy. My name's Lisa, and just before I introduce Jane to the screen, I wanted to just go through a couple of little housekeeping things for you. We're going to be able to ask some questions for Jane or submit our comments through this session. So at the top of your screen, you should see a little button that says Q&A. You're going to tap on that link, and that's what's going to allow you to submit any questions or comments that you want. This is quite a quick session from Jane today, but we're going to try and get as many of your questions in towards the end as you'd like. If you are submitting a question or a comment and you'd prefer to do that anonymously, you have the option to hit a little button to anonymize, and then we won't see your name. Nobody will see your name coming up on the screen. The other thing I just wanted to mention to you is that you do have the option of closed captions for this session. If you go up into the little button at the top of your screen, which says more, and you can open up at that point closed captions. Doesn't interfere with anyone else's visual of the screen, but it just puts that on for you if you would prefer it. Before I hand over to Jane, I also just want to pop this up on the screen. So if you have got your phones handy and you want to take a little clip of this QR code, and this is just for our feedback at the end of the session. We'd really love to know what you felt of the session and what you think we could be doing more of, or something different that you'd like to hear of in future. Partway through the session, David's also going to pop a little link into the Q&A, so you can do that then. For now, that's enough of me. I'm going to hand over to Jane and let her take you through this session, Eating for Energy. Sorry, Jane, we just need to pop off mute.
Oh, yes, that's very important. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much for joining us this morning, everyone. This is the very start of Carers Week, and there's lots and lots of different sessions lined up. So we're really going to think today about how you can use the power of nutrition to help support and sustain and maintain your energy. Obviously, you're juggling lots and lots of things, and you are doing your best to look after others. So the great thing about Carers Week is it's all about you. It's all about how you can help to optimize your well-being. And this is a really brilliant one to start off with. So Eating for Energy. For those of you who have been in my sessions before, some of this you will be very familiar with, but actually it's really good just to kind of get your focus back, think about supporting yourself and getting the foundations right. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Jane McClenaghan. I run a very small business called Vital Nutrition. And over the last year and a bit, we have been running a whole series of nutrition workshops through the Charity for Civil Servants. So you can see a bank of different videos and sessions that we have done. Nutrition is pretty powerful stuff. We have the ability through our food choices to help support our energy, our focus, our mood, our concentration, to help take a load off. And really, when it comes to thinking about nutrition for Carers Week, that's where I'm going with a lot of the sessions that I'm going to be doing with you this week, just helping you to put the focus and the attention on your well-being. That idea that we can't fill from an empty cup, you know, looking after yourself so that you can look after those that depend on you is so important, absolutely essential. So let's think just about the energy roller coaster that most of us find ourselves on during the day. So maybe you wake up and whatever wakes you, whether it is your alarm clock or a child or an animal or a fright that you've woken up late, quite often we wake up in a heightened adrenal state. We wake up in that fight or flight mode. We wake up with a bit of a shock a lot of the time. The exception is if you wake to natural daylight, which at this time of the year is in abundance, then it's a more gentle way of waking. But let's go back to that fight or flight idea, that adrenaline surge idea. When we are in the fight or flight mode, when we are in the doing mode, when we are really busy, maybe a little bit overwhelmed, maybe feel like we're just running on adrenaline or running on empty, Our body produces adrenaline, of course, but it also needs fuel so that we can fight or flight, so that we're in that go mode. So when adrenaline is in abundance in our body, so is glucose, blood sugar. And these two things are meant to be a short, sharp shock of energy. They're meant to give us that quick, instant reaction, and then everything levels off. The problem is that we run on adrenaline. We run on that short shift energy, and we can feel that we're on a bit of an energy roller coaster. There are other things that give us this quick, sharp shock of energy. And if we think about the type of food that we eat, that is fast release rocket fuel, it's high sugar food, it's white carbohydrates, and it's caffeine. So let's break those down. High sugar food gives us that instant spike in energy. And sometimes we crave it, and sometimes our body really needs it. But our body really needs it when we get that dip in blood sugar. So anything that is white or refined, like white bread, white rice, white pasta, has a very similar effect on our body to sugar. So without fiber, our carbohydrate becomes fast release. It becomes rocket fuel. It does give us a lift in blood sugar and a lift in energy, but very quickly then our body releases insulin, and then we get a slump in blood sugar or a slump in energy. When we are on this roller coaster, we often feel the lows in blood sugar much more than we feel the highs. So we can feel fatigue, lack of energy, sugar cravings, that expression of feeling hangry. So maybe a little bit irritable, maybe a little bit more stressed, maybe our attention or our tolerance can be a little bit lower. So it really affects our brain and our body. So we want to balance out our blood sugar to really support better energy through our day. I'm going to give you an opportunity at the end. So I'm going to do the body of the presentation, but I will give you an opportunity at the end to ask questions. So please keep questions coming in the Q&A, and I will get back to those at the end of the presentation. So how do we support and how do we balance this? Well, the first thing that we need to think about is what we eat at breakfast. And there's three components to building a better breakfast. At any meal, to support better blood sugar balance, we need the stabilizers on. We need a source of protein and we need a source of fiber. It also gets you a brownie point if you have at least one of your 5 a day. So the protein is going to slow down the sugar release, slow down that glucose release, keep everything on much more of an even keel, and so is the fiber. So think about those as your stabilizers on every plate of food. So your protein might come from Greek yogurt, nuts, seeds, eggs. At other meals, it might come from meat or fish, chicken, nuts and seeds, cheese, for example. Make sure that you're ticking the protein box at every meal. Your fiber could mean whole grain cereals. It could mean fruit, vegetables. It could mean things like brown rice, for example, or whole grain or wholemeal pita pockets or wholemeal bread. So really think about swapping things up slightly. Getting more protein in at breakfast has such a positive impact on our energy right throughout the day. And research shows that when we have more protein at breakfast, we tend not to get that mid-afternoon energy slump. So here are some ways that you can get a protein-powered breakfast, but that also has some fiber in there and at least one of your 5 a day. So protein porridge with berries. All I mean by protein porridge is make your porridge with milk and put a spoonful, like a heaped dessert spoonful of chia seeds and flax seeds, get more nuts and seeds into your porridge. If you regularly use a protein powder, you could mix that in with your porridge and then that would become your protein porridge. So protein porridge with berries. Greek yogurt, look for one that's got 9 to 10 grams of protein per 100 grams so that you're getting one that's got enough protein. So pick up 2 different yogurts in the supermarket, check out the protein. It doesn't have to say protein on the label, but if it's a Greek yogurt compared to a Greek style yogurt, your Greek yogurt will have 9 to 10 grams of protein per 100. Your Greek style might have about 3 grams per 100. So get the one with a bit more protein. And go with the medium fat one as well, unless your cholesterol's high. So go with, like, instead of the 10% fat, go the 5% fat one, because that fat will also help to stabilize your blood sugar, keep you feeling fuller. Maybe check out and see if you can get a low sugar granola. If you've been to my sessions before, you'll know the difference between low sugar and no added sugar. Low sugar is a legal term. That's what we want to look for. So 5 grams or less per 100 grams. Overnight oats can be really brilliant at this time of the year, and especially if you find that your mornings are particularly busy. Maybe you are a carer for someone who needs extra help in the morning, and that is your busiest time of day. Maybe you're a parent trying to get kids out to school, and maybe that's your busiest time of the day. So think about your overnight oats. Use jumbo oats so that you've got the slow release carbohydrates. They take longer to digest, more stabilizing on your blood sugar. Get your protein in there from either your milk or your yogurt, and again, those seeds that we talked about above. And you could put, some people like to put a little bit of Greek yogurt and things like tahini or peanut butter into their overnight oats. There's a recipe on my website for a carrot cake overnight oats that I will share that you might like. But there's plenty of ways that you can do really nutritious, delicious overnight oats, and it's a great way to set your day up perfectly. If all else fails and you are in a complete rush and a whirlwind in the morning, then instead of just having toast, think about how you can get that protein and fiber into breakfast. That could be something as simple as an egg with your toast and some cherry tomatoes maybe. Or it might be something like putting your Weetabix on your toast, putting your peanut butter on your toast with some banana. Or at this time of year, another really nice thing to do is your peanut butter and chopped strawberries. Yummy, really seasonal. Or perhaps Weetabix seeds and fruit. So there's plenty of options. So you'll see from all of these, everyone there has got some protein, some fiber, and one of your 5 a day. Your breakfast should keep you going 4 to 5 hours, and you'll find that when you increase the protein and fiber and when you eat enough at breakfast time, it should keep you going 4 to 5 hours. So it should mean that you don't need to snack in between meals. And quite often it's our snacks that crash our energy, because they tend to be maybe a cup of tea and a biscuit. High sugar, refined carbs, gives you that spike in blood sugar and then the crash. So try and eat a little more protein, a little more fiber at breakfast, and just notice, see how you feel. So in your lunchbox, again, you want a slow release carbohydrate. That could be things like your oat cakes, wholemeal wraps, but equally it could be things like lentils in a salad. It could be things like hummus. It could be things like carrots, for example, in your salad. It doesn't have to mean that it's the starchy carbs. We can get carbohydrates from fruit, vegetables as well, and beans and lentils. So a slow release carbohydrate, a portion of protein. So when you look in your lunchbox, you want to make sure that a quarter of your lunchbox, or the size of the palm of your hand, is your protein. That could be, yes, your eggs and meat and fish and chicken, but it could also be a mixture of different types of protein. So a thing I quite like to do a lot at lunchtime is to make up a super salad with maybe those little pouches of ready cooked lentils as the base, and then put herbs in there, grated carrot in there, tomatoes or sun-dried tomatoes, maybe something like some feta cheese, and then a dressing, olive oil, lemon juice, bit of salt and pepper. Use that as your base. So your protein in that are your lentils and your feta. And then you might have that along with a piece of fish or something like that too. So just think about how you can bring different types of protein onto your plate. And then 2 of your 5 a day. So remember that a portion is the size of your fist. And it might be that that is in your salad, or it might be that you have maybe the filling to a pita or a wrap, which is your salad and your chicken, let's say, and hummus maybe. And then you have an apple or a pear or some fruit afterwards. So if your lunchbox looks a little bit like this, it's definitely rocket fuel, but at least you're getting 1 of your 5 a day in this. So what about swapping it to better sandwiches? Perhaps instead of going for white bread, go wholemeal bread. Instead of going for wholemeal bread, go for a wholemeal pita pocket, because you can get so much more inside that than you can inside a sandwich. And in there again, think about that protein. Is it going to be chicken? Is it going to be fish? Is it going to be cheese? Is it going to be hummus, for example, or halloumi or feta? And then maybe a bit of salad, and just really think about getting those veggies in there too. Perhaps have some nuts instead of the crisps, perhaps have some fruit instead of the chocolate bar, and perhaps have some yogurt there too, as long as you've not had it for breakfast. I would usually say in the wintertime have soup, but where we are right now, it is quite cold, so it's okay to have soup the springtime or early summer. And it might be also things like gazpacho is a brilliant way of getting more veggies in in summertime. Those seasonal salads are brilliant, or perhaps leftover dinners. Then snacks. If you do get peckish in between meals, sometimes that's where we get the sugar munchies. If you've tidied up what you're eating at breakfast and lunch, and it's not a complete overhaul, it's just really fine-tuning things, making sure that you're ticking that box for fiber, ticking that box for protein, and eating enough to keep you going 4 to 5 hours. You'll probably find that you're not hungry. And if you are hungry, think about getting some protein in there. So it might be a piece of fruit and a handful of nuts. It might be a slightly healthier bar. So it might be perhaps that you make up something like little energy bars, or maybe you check the sugar of the bar that you're eating at the minute and realize, actually, it's quite high sugar, and find one that's got less in it. It might be that you have some dark chocolate and a few Brazil nuts, or better biscuits. So again, something perhaps instead of Jaffa cakes, which are about 50 grams of sugar per 100 and no fiber, you swap to something like digestives, which have got about 16 grams of sugar per 100 and are high fiber. So think about tweaking, changing, doing it in a way that slightly improves your diet, nudges more nutrition into your diet. The first sign of dehydration is fatigue. So really think about making sure that you're well hydrated. And the best way to do that, of course, is to drink enough water, especially if we do get warmer weather. And depending on where you're listening to this, if you're in south of England, you have a very different climate than we have in Northern Ireland. So really think about making sure that you're well hydrated. Also remember that as carers, a lot of you will have a very physical role as a carer. There'll be a lot of perhaps lifting and a lot of strenuous work. So think about making sure that you are looking after your energy, hydrating yourself, especially on very warm days. When we're thinking about eating for energy or anything to do with nutrition, it's not a complete overhaul. It's changing one thing in your routine and in your habits that are going to help support your well-being. So whether you're thinking about adding more protein onto your plate, whether you're thinking about switching to higher fiber carbohydrates, or whether you're thinking about adding more fruit and veg or getting more hydration, those 4 things are the key fundamental things that we want to look at when it comes to eating for energy. Of course, our micronutrients are really important. Things like iron and B vitamins are really important. But eating in this way is going to make sure that you've got good variety and better nutrition on your plate. So I am going to, come out of this and check in with you to see if there's any questions.
Hey, Jane. Hiya. Yes, we
Hi,
do
Lisa.
have some questions.
Great.
We've got some, as always, Jane, a super session. Really, really appreciate that. And that was a really sort of speed session.
Yes.
When we're thinking about energy, we need the energy to just keep up with that session. But we do have some questions for you. So we'll start off here. Is there a specific amount of protein that I should be having each day? And how do I know, how do I work out how much is enough?
Okay, love that question. For most people, it's recommended between 25 to 30 grams of protein at each meal. And I would encourage you to do a little food diary just for 3, 4, 5 days and use an app like there's an app called NutriCheck and there's an app called MyFitnessPal. And if you use one of those just for a few days to see what your habits are, it'll give you a really good understanding of how much protein you're getting, but also look at your fiber too. So 25 to 30 grams of protein at every meal and 10 grams of fiber at every meal. So it adds up to 30. The easy way to remember it is 30 and 30. 30 grams of protein at each meal, 30 grams of fiber in your whole day. And just slowly make changes to get yourself there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We've got a question here. Someone says, as a type 2 diabetic, I really struggle to curb my craving for sweet things. How can I get this under control and curb the craving without feeling like food isn't fun or satisfying that craving?
Yes, okay, that's a brilliant question. Excuse me. So type 2 diabetes, obviously what we're talking about here is absolutely key. Excuse me. So I would encourage you to make sure that you're getting enough protein and enough fiber on your plate, and maybe do what we said for that last answer. Actually, just do the food diary and make sure you're getting enough. Because quite often what I find, like I was talking to somebody on Friday at a conference, and she was saying exactly the same thing. This was exactly the same question. And when we talked about her diet, actually, she was quite heavy on the carbohydrates and not enough of protein. So just thinking about prioritizing protein, honestly, is a game changer for all of us, and especially if you've got type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, to really hone in on getting that protein. And you'll also find that when you have more protein on your plate and healthy fats and enough fiber, that you will feel more satisfied. Your blood sugar levels will be much more balanced, and you will crave a lot less of the starchy carbs and the sugar.
Fabulous. Thank you. I hope that helped. Another question. Someone says, I have IBS and it's difficult when I'm hearing a lot about nuts and seeds. What would be a good alternative? Because, of course, we often talk about nuts and seeds when we're talking about protein. So what's a good alternative for someone who struggles with that because of digestive issues?
Yeah. Okay. So I would think, instead of thinking about alternatives, I would think about slowly bringing these into your diet, unless, of course, there's an allergy. But the way I would bring them in would be milled seeds or smooth nut butter. So it might be something like milled flaxseed, milled chia seeds, which are widely available, or it might be things like tahini, like in a little dressing with a really nice way to do a salad dressing is a spoonful of natural yogurt, a spoonful of tahini, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, some lemon juice. That's delicious. And it's a good way of easing these nuts and seeds into your diet. I would do that because actually what that is going to do is help to support better digestion because of the fiber and the micronutrients that are in those nuts and seeds. So gently, that's how I would encourage you to do that.
Okay, excellent. Another question. I struggle to get through the day without relying on the energy drinks. I know you mentioned that a little bit in your session, didn't you, Jane? I know they're not good for me in the long run, but how can I reduce this reliance, especially as I don't like coffee or other hot drinks? What could we replace the energy drinks with?
Okay. So the energy drinks are definitely, they do give us energy, but it's like that rocket fuel, and then they crash our blood sugar, and they are so detrimental to our health. So some of the energy drinks can have 13 teaspoons of sugar in a can. So they really are rocket fuel. The ones that are sugar-free have artificial sweeteners, and that really depletes our gut microbiome, or impacts negatively our gut microbiome. So I would say keep a food diary. Get accountable to yourself for what you're doing, and notice how often you're having the energy drinks. And let's say if you're having one every day, then decide to cut down by half and go one every other day. So you're not going all or nothing. Then think about what you're replacing that with. So could you have something like sparkling water with ice and a slice? Could you have something like, check out kombucha, because it's a sparkling drink. It's made with tea and green tea, and it comes with different flavors. Like you can get a cola one, but there's like lemon or berry. And it's a nice way to transition between fizzy drinks and something slightly healthier, but just gradually reduce, and really make sure that you're looking at your hydration. And it could even be that if you don't really like water, put a dash of cordial in to your water, because that's going to be better than your energy drinks, but it's slowly easing that out of your diet. Thank you for that question.
Excellent. Another question here. When looking at buying food on the go, so I'm guessing that maybe means like prepackaged sandwiches, salads, things like that. Any tips for selecting the nutritious option?
Yeah, so I would always, in my head, I've got a couple of things. So I always think first of all about looking at sugar on the label. So you're aiming for 5 grams or less per 100. That's number one. Number two, we could think really about, is there protein in that food on the go option? So if I'm standing in a cafe or like I'm kind of thinking about, because I was talking to a client about it this morning, like somewhere like Pret a Manger, right? Or a sandwich shop or Marks and Spencer's or Tesco, look for the protein first. So it might be that all the shelves have got sandwiches on them, but somewhere you could find a slightly healthier sandwich. And there might be, you know, those little pots like with a boiled egg and spinach, or there might be a little pack of chicken or something like that. But if you can think about getting some protein, getting some vegetables, it's probably going to take you to that salad side rather than the sandwich side. But keep those same fundamentals in mind, that you're thinking protein, you're trying to get a form of fiber in, which could be your fruit and vegetables, and you're also thinking about keeping the sugar as low as you can go. That means that you can do this absolutely anywhere, whether it's off a menu, whether it's in a like a cafe takeaway kind of thing at lunchtime, whether you're choosing a ready meal or whether you're cooking at home.
Excellent, thank you. So a big key is, Jane, in lots of this is be aware of those nutrition labels. Learn to read those nutrition labels for protein, fiber, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Excellent,
but no, I
thank
wouldn't
you.
even say look at the labels. I would just say kind of
Look at
use your
the
instinct about
look at the
really
food.
thinking about what part of it, excuse me, what part of it is your protein. So is there
Yes.
chicken? Is there fish? Are there eggs? Are there hummus or beans? So are you getting
Yes.
protein on that plate? Is there something vegetable-y? And if not, pick up a bit of fruit. And is there some fiber there? So that's the way I would look at it. And then you don't
Perfect.
need to get into
Then we don't
you
need
don't
to
need to
worry
get
too
too
much.
complicated with the labels.
Perfect. Perfect. So you've spoken a lot about drinking water, staying hydrated today, Jane. So somebody's asked, is there such a thing as drinking too much water?
Yes, there is. So we can drink too much water and that will knock our electrolytes out. Our electrolytes are the salts in our body that help to regulate blood pressure, for example. So they're really, really important. They are minerals. They are sodium and potassium, calcium and magnesium. So yes, you can drink too much water. And for most people, it's recommended between 1.5 to 2 liters a day. If we drink too much water, we dilute the electrolytes and we're at risk of very low blood pressure and yeah, not good. So just be careful about not drinking too much. Keep it in moderation.
Okay, that's interesting. Another question from someone else who mentions type 2 diabetes, but also caring for someone who's pre-diabetic and with heart failure. So this person was told to avoid the fat-free options, especially in things like milk and yogurt, etc., because when it says the label says fat-free, that often means they've increased the sugar. Is that right? Is the question?
Generally, yes, it can be. It's not always right, but it can be. So if you're caring for someone with heart failure, then you do need to be a little bit cautious about saturated fat. But sugar is much more detrimental to us, much more oxidative and much more detrimental to our health, really, than fat. So I would go for things that are as unprocessed as possible. So I know that you said there, especially in things like milk and yogurt. So definitely stuff like your fat-free flavored yogurts, they will either be higher in sugar or they'll contain artificial sweeteners. So just get into the habit of glancing at labels and then knowing which brands and which particular products fit with that being as least processed as possible and as, for want of a better word, clean as possible. So when you read the ingredients list, just make sure you recognize everything there as something that you would have in your kitchen, something that's a real food, rather than things like the emulsifiers and the sweeteners and that sort of stuff.
Excellent. Thank you. We're almost at the end of our time, so we might not get all of the questions in, but here's an interesting one. What do you recommend as a healthier comfort food? So
Yeah.
that's snacky food in the evening. What do
Yeah.
you recommend?
Okay. So I think, and this is in the context of caring here. So caring can have many lows, and comfort food can sometimes be the only thing keep me going. I absolutely get that. So think about how that food is making you feel, how that food is making you function. So it could be your comfort food might be ice cream, but have some fruit with it. It might be something like chocolate, but go for darker chocolate. It might be something like I'm going to share a recipe really quickly for a recipe I've got for carrot cake energy balls. You can make up a little batch of these, and they will do, you can have those in the cupboard, and they will give you lots and lots of nutrition. They will feel like a little comfort food. They will feel like they are giving you that little sweet treat, but they're also doing you good. So I think, honestly, it's really considering how the food is serving you, what it is doing for you, and not thinking that it's all or nothing, not thinking that we are bad or good because we are eating less healthy or more healthy stuff.
Okay. Thank you. So Jane and our audience, I'm so sorry. We have got more questions here, but we're at the end of this session. So Jane, I already have the worksheet that was kindly provided to me that goes along with this session. I've just popped a note into the Q&A, everybody. If you would like a copy of the worksheet that goes with this session, Eating for Energy, email me direct. I've put my email address in there. It's lisa.colville@cfcs.org.uk. And Jane, am I right in thinking that people could also reach out to you on all your socials, and your website and your details are going to be on there for additional information? If we didn't cover something, people can contact?
Yes.
Oh, that's super.
100%. So you can message me directly through social media or through the website. Please do. Yes, absolutely.
Super. And Jane, of course, we're going to see more of you throughout Carers Week. We've got another couple of sessions. So if you haven't already registered for those, please get onto our website now. Register for Jane's upcoming sessions. This morning, we've got another session coming up at 11:30. So you have time to go and get yourself a glass of water or a healthy snack if you want to do that. We've got financial wellbeing for carers coming up at 11:30. So for now, I just want to say thank you, Jane, of course, for another super session. And thank you also to our audience and David behind the scenes for all that he's done today. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.